What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Out of Left Field. I'm your host, Abby Alonzo. I am joined by yet another all-star standout AUSL pitcher. I just told her I feel like I'm rolling through the Talons, but I mean, you guys are in Utah now. You just won a championship. It fits, right? Georgina Corrick, how are you? What are you up to right now?
I'm just so happy that you were able to get me on the podcast today. I think obviously I'm a little biased for the Talons. I think we have
Right.
some of the greatest minds, honestly, across the entire sport of softball, but a little chilly for me this morning here in New York, but I don't mind. It's nice inside.
New York. We were just talking before I was late to the podcast. I'll say it. I'm going to own it because you guys know I am from the bottom of Louisiana. It's 0 degrees in Michigan and it is snowing. I don't know how to drive in it. So if anybody has tips, please let me know. I'm learning, but I was late because of that. But we're here. And I normally start off by rattling off the accolades and the resume of the women that I'm speaking to, but I'm quickly realizing that that's a long list every single time that I talk to y'all. And instead of introducing you by what you've earned or the awards that you've been named, I want to let you introduce yourself. Maybe it goes outside of the sport of softball, but if somebody doesn't know who you are, who are you?
My gosh, that's kind of hard. It's hard to take a 27-year-old and put you in a box. People do love doing it though a lot. So my name is Georgina Corrick. Pretty much everyone calls me George. I've been really fortunate with my softball career because it started pretty young. I actually, on my desk here, have like pictures of my parents. This is them in black and white. I don't know, obviously. If it's a podcast, it's an audio. You can't see it. It's my mom holding
Oh, no, you'll see it.
And my dad in what is probably the tightest jeans known to man. But they are from England. And so I was actually born in the UK and then moved over here when I was like 3 months old. And they, uprooted their entire life and started everything over again in the U.S., which was really cool because then my younger sister here was now born in U.S. She was born in Atlanta. But because of that, when I started softball, I actually started with the Great Britain national team. So I played locally, not a very, very big name, like small travelable organization, and then got picked up at maybe 14 to start with the Great Britain national team. And that I would say was like the start of my journey with softball and carrying me from place to place and allowing me to realize that softball can be a tool if you allow it to be so and get you from places. So I have now played for the Great Britain national team for 12 years. The coach actually of my college program was the head coach for Team USA. Shout out Ken Erickson. He ran a wonderful program, has since then retired from Team USA to just be full-time at the University of South Florida, where I spent 5 years. And then I was probably the luckiest person in the entire world, I think, to have been drafted out of college into Athletes Unlimited. I was in the same graduating class as Bailey Klingler, as Jocelyn Allo. I still knowing that I kind of shared that space with them is really cool. And so now this is my 4th year going into 5 of playing professionally with Athletes Unlimited. So that's kind of been my journeys of the things that have taken me to where I am. But all I've ever wanted to do since I was 7 years old was go to the LA 2028 Olympics. So that's been our goal recently since I joined GB when I was 14, and just seeing what's happened now with professional softball, with international softball, and knowing that I kind of have been able to have feet on the ground for the majority of it has been really cool. And now I actually currently coach at Cornell University as well, up here in very, very far away from New York City. So I don't think I would call myself a true New Yorker, up in Ithaca, just south of Syracuse, which I'm just doing for a couple months here to try and get my feet wet in college softball and the coaching aspect of things and see if I enjoy it. And I think that it makes me a better softball player by being able to teach it and to coach it.
Woo, that was a lot to break down. Lots of different, she's all over the place in the best ways. But I actually want to start with the fact that you showed a picture of your parents, and we will see this because there's a YouTube show. If you're listening on Spotify, go subscribe. Talk to me about your family. We'll get into the softball, trust me, but I love that you started by actually showing your parents in black and white pictures and kind of introducing yourself with your family first. So give me the breakdown, the background. What are your relationships like and how have they shown up in your softball career?
I'm so glad that you asked me. I think as I've gotten older, especially when you're 15, 16, you're your parents are just people that live in the same house as you that you like cannot wait to not be in the same house with.
Yup.
And as I've gotten older now and like become a little bit, my frontal lobe is developed, you know, super exciting. Shout out 25. But like now I've realized like how important my relationship is with my family and the things that they have provided for me and allowed me to do. And I think as you get older, your parents start to become your friends again. So my parents, John and Sally, are the best. I would say my dad is where I get a lot of like my personality, my wit, and everything. And then my mom is like my best friend. I called her last night. We're on the phone for hours and hours. But we were like a very, very funny family that like when you have English parents and you grow up in like rural Georgia, everyone just wants to come over and hang out because they want to hear your parents talk.
Yeah.
You know, like I didn't feel like anybody was my friend. They just loved sitting on my couch and listening to my mom on the phone, you know. They are phenomenal. I like grew up with them. Like my dad is a big, big like trivia nut. So it was like we only had a TV that was like locked away in a cabinet for the majority of the day. And at like 8 p.m. it opened like the freaking closet from Narnia. And like the TV
Wow.
popped out that was like very analog and it played Jeopardy from 8 until 9 p.m. And the whole family sat down and we watched Jeopardy together. Whether I knew, you know, what the Byzantine Empire was when I was 7 did not matter. I was expected to sit and watch Jeopardy with my dad. And so he and I like ended up having a really, really strong relationship with that because I actually really enjoyed it. And my sister was like, she could not wait
for me.
to get the heck out of there and like sit and watch the Sunday cartoons or something. They're phenomenal. They live down in Port Charlotte, Florida currently. My mom's a real estate agent and my dad actually is just looking to retire, but he was a software developer for a very, very long time. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What was that like? I know you came over here when you were 3 months old, but what was the adjustment like for them? You grew up watching them try to adjust to American culture. It's very different. But what was your perspective of seeing that?
I think my dad just really loves a pub. I think that was the hardest. You're gonna hate that.
I love that answer.
Like, the hardest thing I think for my dad in the U.S. is like pub culture isn't really a big thing. So he's like, how the heck do I make friends over here? Like, you don't just like bump into like the 6 worst people you've ever met at the pub and just become best friends for life. And so he had to like start playing golf, which he'd always played golf, but he had to like start doing American golfing, which was like a very interesting thing for him. I think the transition for them was actually not terrible. They're both very personable people. Like my yapping ability comes from my mom. Like she could talk to a brick wall, you know, and it would talk back. Like my dad also, again, I told you, very, very smart man. And so just likes being in the room and like kind of like having interesting conversations. And he's the first person to be like, hey, fun fact, did you know, you know? So it's always pretty cool for them because I think that they very quickly like solidified themselves here in the US with their friends and their families and everything. And then when you have 2 young kids, all you're ever trying to do is get them the heck out of the house, you know? So my mom would just like walk down the street with like a for sale sign being like, who wants to hang out with my kids? Do you have kids? I have kids. So
she's pawning you off like, please.
And she'd be like, hey, by the way, like I have a real estate exam, but I think the neighbor's going to take you in for a few hours. I was like, I don't know the neighbor. Like, I don't know that lady. And my mom's like, it's fine. You'll be fine. Don't even worry about it.
That's great.
So I like adore them because it's like a very casual experience, especially like England is very like, you kind of boot your kid out into the street and you're like, all right, get on the train, get on the bus, make your way to school. And like
figure it out.
Was very not like that. So that was a quick adjustment for me, I would say, with my friends.
Yeah. What aspects of that growing up with parents that were so like ready to get y'all out and that we're adjusting to a new culture, you learn a lot, but what aspects of that do you think you carried into softball?
I think it makes me very independent and like I'm not really scared to try new things. I think that was very, very important for them was that from a young age, I got on my first plane by myself. I think I was 14. You know, I had a passport and a dream and they were like, you're going to go see your aunt. I was like, again, I don't know this lady, you know? So you keep putting me places and I don't know these adults, you know, like a stranger danger doesn't really exist to John and Sally Corrick, which is so ridiculous. But I think it does help me in softball because I wasn't like scared to go and like try something that I've never tried before. Because I mean, my favorite phrase is the worst you can say is no, you know? At the worst, I could like try a new pitching coach. I could try a new technique. I could try a new spin. The worst thing that happens is it doesn't work. And so like when I noticed a lot of my friends here in the US, you get a lot of them are like very dependent on their families. Like family is a huge culture thing. Both my parents grew up, my dad's mom passed when he was pretty young, and then my mom went to boarding school. So she was like from 11 or 12, she was shipped like well and truly far away from her parents. She wouldn't see them for 8 months out of the year. So for them, they were very like hands off. Like the second you're out of my house, like don't come back in my house. I was like, well, hey man, like everyone else's parents are like doing Thanksgiving, like they're doing like a big old tailgating. Like, are we gonna do that? So they've adjusted a little bit for that. I would say
Yeah.
now they're a little bit more realizing like, oh, it's actually really fun to like hang out with the kid that you spent 20 years raising because they're like a
Right.
mini version of you.
Yep.
And now I think for them, especially softball was like a very new sport for my dad. He'd never heard of it. He never tried it. He grew up playing cricket, which no American knows how to play cricket. And most English people don't enjoy cricket. It's like the most boring sport you've ever seen. Everyone bunts for like 2 days, and then finally on the last day, like people show up and we're like, oh, maybe I'll hit the ball today. And I was like, what's going on? So my dad always, when I was like starting softball, he called me a bowler. Like he's like, all right, the most important thing, you got to get 3 wickets. And I was like, again, John, I don't know what a wicket is. I've asked people, no one knows what you're talking about. I think you're delusional. So it's really fun for like all of us as a family, I would say, to like really get outside of our comfort levels and learn
Yeah.
something new together. Because I'd have to show up and be like, all right, Dad, in baseball, it's called an out. And he would
Wow.
he'd like pull me into his office. He always had like your parents sometimes like have a separate room that's like the office room. And he like,
Yes.
I only went in there to play Webkins. I didn't really know that like adult things happened in there. And we would sit and we would watch YouTube like tutorials together. And he'd like have, Jenny Finch and Jessica Mendoza and like Lisa Fernandez, which amazing now that she is the general manager of the team that I play for.
Yeah.
Unreal full circle moment.
I was going to say.
It's been pretty cool to like all of us now have fallen in love with softball together when I started, I was,
You got to start somewhere.
I was buns. I was a catcher. I was no good. And my dad, he loved me through it all. Bless his cotton socks. He loved me no matter how bad at softball I was. So it feels nice now that I get to like be a little bit better. So he doesn't have to be as ashamed of his kid,
Dude, one of the coolest things, so I talk to a lot of athletes, not just softball, but I love to talk about family because a lot of the times you hear, yeah, my parents played, or like, this is how I got into it. But to hear that you guys learn the sport together and have been on this journey from sucking as a catcher to being one of the best pitchers in professional softball has got to be surreal for your parents. I'm sure it's surreal for you too, but just to watch and learn the sport with you and see you grow that way is incredible. And that's something different I haven't heard too much of through these interviews and stuff. And the other cool thing is Megan and I talked about being open to everything, trying new things, and then finding what works for you and staying strong in that. It makes sense why you guys are friends, because hearing about your upbringing and how your parents were like, just be independent, figure it out, see what you like. If you don't like it, whatever. I think that is so cool because now I understand a little bit more of you and Megan's friendship and where y'all might connect a little bit of just trying things. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And I want to speak about that a little bit because I feel like a lot of younger athletes, especially with social media and comparison of this person's here on their athlete path or whatever it is, that there's an element of fear of failure, of, not comparing to teammates or competitors, so to speak. Advice on that front to young girls who might struggle with that right now?
I think I'm very fortunate in the battery that we have with Talons. So like the returning battery of Montana Fouts, Megan Faraimo, and I think that each one of us are very, very unique pitchers because we process pitching in very different ways. I think each one of us are kind of like scientists in a way. So that helps a lot when we sit there, when we sit all together. I'm not kidding. Like people would come out to the bullpen and it's like the three of us having like the most intense conversation you've probably ever heard about a rise ball. And they're like, yeah, I don't know enough to be here. Like, do you guys mind if I just stand in the box and like watch a couple? Because we love failing. It sounds a little silly, but like, Montana hates to lose, but she loves to fail, right? Because by failing, you learn something. You get a lot better. When I work with a lot of my girls here at Cornell, I know that they're not the 14 to 15 to 16. They're not as malleable as that age group, a lot of them kind of already have preconceived notions of the past. So when telling them who they have to be, how pitching works, like things that don't often make like inherent sense to me, because I am an experimenter. I like to try something out. I'm not going to buy something off the rack and not know whether it fits me or not, and then just like die on the hill that like, oh, well, this is just who I am now. No, like you should be able to rebuild yourself and recorrect. And if this doesn't work for you, then, but it works for somebody else, that doesn't mean it's right and or wrong, right? Everything should be, pitching should work for you. Softball should work for you. You are kind of the creator of the action. So you can't get mad at the effect if you're not treating the cause. So it's actually really, really cool, because I think all three of us at times have experienced failure, especially this first season with Athletes Unlimited was incredible, but it was also very trying. Most of us, if we'd competed in Athletes Unlimited before, was the first time we'd returned back to almost a collegiate side of things, where you're not playing points, you're not playing in a more independent style of play, you're on a team again. But there's not really, your head coach isn't the head coach the way that you experienced when you were 19, 20, 21, 22. Now they're more of a, hey, you guys are professionals. I know that you know how to get your job done. We're here to provide what you need. Versus college kids, it's like, I'm going to tell you to jump. I'm going to tell you exactly how high, and I'm going to tell you how to do it. Which does do a disservice, I think, to some young athletes, because then they never learn the why of what they're doing. They never actually learn how to do what they're doing. They just know that I've done it 18 million times. And so the only solution I have is to do it another 18 million times. So it's really, I would say it's very beneficial for young athletes to know that we fail, we struggle. Megan, Montana, and I each came in and were like, I don't feel like this is working. I'm struggling with this. I'm struggling with this. And the first thing that every single one of us did was turn and ask for help, but from a peer, someone whose opinion that we value, who watches the game and experiences the game on the same level as us. So I think it's really difficult for young girls, especially if you're 13, 14, 15 years old and you're idolizing someone who's 25, 26, 27. There is a slight cognitive dissonance there, because I probably, if I step on the mound, there's things that I've already figured out that come intrinsic to me that are not there yet for the younger athletes. So the only people that you can really speak to and like gain a lot of like physical hands-on experience are the people in your immediate spheres that experience the same things on the same levels as you do. You can go and ask someone at a higher level, hey, why do you do this? Why do you do this? Why do you do this? But when you bring it back to yourself, you have to realize that your foundation is not their foundation. And so, especially with my young athletes, the ones that I work with here at Cornell University, that has been a huge learning process for me, because it's like, imagine that like you're trying to explain walking to a baby. I wake up every morning and I walk. I don't have to think about it. I don't need to like consider which foot goes in front of the other, but they do. They haven't gotten there yet. And so a lot of my young athletes, I know that they are great at what they do because they want to get better. And so we're building a foundation together. So for the young ones especially, I think that's important to remember, that you're maybe not at the same place foundationally as the people that you admire.
Right. And God, I would love to be in a bullpen with you, Megan, in Montana, because I can only imagine the conversation happening. And just, again, hearing from Megan 2 weeks ago, and now you, like, the way that you guys view the game and loving to fail and learning from your peers, there's an element of empathy and experience from somebody who's in the bullpen with you, who's in a similar position when they're in the circle playing for the same team, that you learn from each other. And I think young athletes hearing that, hey, these women that we look up to, that we think can do no wrong and don't ever fail, are sitting here saying, hey, yeah, I fail all the time. I actually love to fail, and I like learning with my peers, is huge for younger athletes to hear. I'm actually curious if you can recall any conversation that you've had with Montana or Megan in that bullpen where something clicked, or maybe you learned something that did work for you or didn't work for you.
I can specifically, so if like you've watched any of my film or you've seen me play, my identity has changed a lot over the last like 5-6 years, especially going and playing softball I play in the Japanese Diamond League as well. And just the way that hitters swing over there is very different and unique. So I previously in college was like heavy rise ball, heavy screwball, like I mixed some change of speeds, but I often just worked up and in, right? Like that was kind of my quadrant. And then I got to Japan, and every Japanese player, if you throw a rise ball and it's not If it's not 20 feet outside of the zone, I have had balls hit off of me that I don't think have landed yet, right? They're still
Oh
existing
my.
in a 16-hour forward time zone, and they just will never land. And so that was super humbling for me. I was like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
the one thing I thought I was really good at, someone else is even better at hitting. So I actually had to
Wow.
really, really isolate my changeup. And that was part of a pitch that was now became a massive part of my arsenal here in Athletes Unlimited, because I realized that the way that the game is developing and stylizing changes. And so as a result, we should also change as well. And so Meg and I have had that conversation heavily because we both play over in the Japanese Diamond League, how she was trying to really work. She didn't really throw a changeup in college. She was very up, a little bit of down. And now she works a lot of down, a lot of curve. And we started working on a changeup together in the bullpen when we were with Athletes Unlimited. And it was really cool because you get to experience the joy that you remember when you were like 14 at a pitching lesson and having a breakthrough. Because like you don't get a lot
Dude.
of breakthroughs, I would say. Like the older that you get, you start, I don't think that they happen less. I think that you start expecting them more because you think that you're smarter, you think that you're more experienced. But like the joy of learning something new never really goes away, I would say. And so Meg and I often, we were sitting there, she's like, how do you throw your changeup? I really want to work on a changeup. And we sat, I want to say it was at Salt Lake City, which again, full circle moment. Now this is going to be our home.
Yeah.
But we were at Utah, and she was like, I really want to work my changeup. Will you sit in the bullpen with me? And I'm going to throw my changeup for like 45 minutes. And we sat there, and it was one of those moments where you just like, you remember why you fell in love with the sport, because you get to watch someone who is so good at what they do feel like a young girl again. When she'd throw a really phenomenal changeup, she's like, what did you see? What did you like? Was that good? Was that good? And you like have to sit there and be like, Meg, that was amazing. Like that was incredible. What did you feel? Do we think we can like recreate it? Like, do we think we can make it better? Can we make it better? I think we can make it better. And so you get to have this like kind of like young childlike wonder about the sport again. And like Montana as well, she got to return to Tuscaloosa. And so she's throwing in a bullpen that she's thrown in for like a decade. And she's like, oh, I remember when I worked on my curveball here, and the bullpen catcher that caught for us in Tuscaloosa was the same one that she had her entire college career. And so it's like getting to kind of like see those small moments of joy really rekindle again in athletes, I think is really exciting because we stop prioritizing them because we have such high expectations for ourselves. But we had so many moments in the bullpen where we were just like young girls again, hanging out with each other and like loving sport because we were having these little breakthroughs about things that we've just taken for granted for so long. And I was like, Montana, please, you have to show me, because she throws a very different rise ball than Meg and I do. So we're like talking about different rise ball mechanics and like how it works for each one of us, our different levers, the physics behind things. And so you get to like be in a room with other people that are just as nerdy and passionate about the things that you are. And it does like, I still feel like a 15-year-old sometimes when I'm like in those spaces, because it's how you remember falling in love with the sport.
Yep. Something you just did, I don't even know if you realized you did it. It is, as women in sports, you know, there's a lot of opportunity to be competitive with each other or competitive with somebody who is in your same position or going for the same job or whatever it is, so to speak. You just sat here and authentically shared with me and exemplified what it's like to root for somebody who's in your exact position, who in some perceptions can be a competitor or somebody that, you know, you're fighting for against for a position, is what I mean. You just spoke so highly of both of them, and I could feel the joy that you just felt or may have experienced when they figured something out, when a light bulb went off for them, when they got better. And I think that is so important in sport and life, to not view your teammates or somebody who's, again, gunning for a position that you're also playing as an opponent, but as, you know, you guys make each other better. That's what makes a team strong. Clearly, you guys won a championship. The three of you together, I would love to be in that bullpen.
I cannot understand how that happened.
Me neither. I'm sure a lot of people don't.
No, I know. And I'm sure every hitter in the country was like, are you kidding me right now?
This is rigged.
Yeah. It's such an iron sharpens iron moment, you know? And I think that's a common like misconception for like young athletes, anybody in sport, is that it's like, oh, you're like competing for the same position. Like versus when you get the higher and higher levels that you get to, like I have a very good friend who works like in the MLB. You see that anyone, regardless of kind of like gender, regardless of sport, they stop seeing their teammates and people in their same sphere as competitors, and they see them as like-minded individuals, because
Yes.
you can't get better alone. I mean, you can have the work ethic, you can put in the repetitions, but realistically, like, you cannot get better by yourself. When I talk about my parents, when I talk about my college coaches, any of my teammates from when I was 9 to now when I'm 27, every single one of them has made me better. So I think that it's always very difficult. Sometimes people are like, "Oh, well, like, how can you like want someone else who could take your position to do better than you?" And I'm like, because I'm better because they're here, and I hope that they're better
Yes.
because I'm here. And
Yep.
that's the authenticity that I love about Athletes Unlimited, and I love in like some of the women that you've had a chance to speak to.
Man, talk to me the core of the league. And I got lucky. I was able to be around for this first inaugural season when everything changed. And I say this all the time, from the social media people to security at the games to the players, everybody that I was around or got to talk to or work with, you felt this, like there was just everybody was on the same page, and it was a mission to grow the sport, to help people feel included, to help people get better. You feel that. Talk to me as a player, how, you said earlier there was a lot of identity change because of the way that the format changed for AUSL this year. What kind of benefits does that have when there's a lot of change going on, but you have a surrounding environment and community of people just trying to lift each other up and make people better?
I think you can see it reflected in each of the individuals that you've spoken to. We
Mm-hmm.
feel like professionals. I think that, especially like having grown up and idolized the people like Kat Osterman, like Jenny Finch, who existed in the MPF, which was an incredible league, but I think it was slightly ahead of its time, right? Some of the
Mm-hmm.
locations were away from urban centers, and like those athletes were not paid what they deserve. For the caliber of talent that existed in professional softball and collegiate softball at that time, those athletes were not paid what they deserved, and we saw kind of the slow like supernova death of professional
Mm-hmm.
softball, because you had to pick between having a life, having kids, like having a
Yep.
family, moving, getting a job, and the passion that you've spent 10, 15, 20 years rallying behind. And you had these
Mm-hmm.
incredible athletes that still managed to get it done, to go to the 2008 Olympics and win medals and advocate for softball on the international and the global sphere, getting paid pennies to what they were worth. And then you saw obviously kind of like that power vacuum where the MPF kind of folded. No one was really sure what was going to come onto the scene after that. And then the kind of the explosion of the WPF and Athletes Unlimited. Again, everyone wants to be the first one to do something, right? And everyone
Right.
wanted to be like, we want to bring back professional softball. We want to provide these opportunities for these women. And I think in choosing Athletes Unlimited, I was really, really fortunate. Not that the WPF struggled, but it fell under the same issues as the MPF. They just really struggled to pay the girls what they deserved. And then it's like, if you have these competing leagues, the same way we talk about competing positions or positional players, if you constantly see each other as competitors instead of people that can kind of harness and sharpen each other, you're always going to end up both weaker as a result of that. So I think the COVID kind of sliding in and creating this like almost blank slate effect, where it was, we get a chance to go back to the drawing board. We get a chance to try this. Can we do it a little bit better? How can we prioritize these athletes instead of prioritizing the business side of things? Instead of just making it
Yes.
about making money, it's about making athletes and making careers, because it was just unsustainable. You can't make a business model off an employee that can only guarantee a year or two because they need to go get another job, because they need to pay their
Yep.
mortgage. That's not sustainable in any way, shape, or form. So I think Athletes Unlimited did something that like had never been done before, which was prioritize the livelihood of the athletes, even at the cost of a business model. And then you got a lot of reward out of that. I think we see the loyalty and the athletes that are able to come back year after year after year, and you making it a priority. We have a lot of athletes. Morgan Zirkle works with like her own Marshall program. She's a head coach. Victoria Hayward, who I played with this summer, who just retired as well, head coach of Nevada. We've got these girls not having to pick between their passions anymore,
Yep.
being able to chase all of their dreams at once, because the business model prioritized them as individuals and as athletes, as opposed to just being like, well, you're a means to make money. And we've seen what that means now, because now we want to play for Athletes Unlimited as athletes, and they reap the benefits of that. You're able to get these phenomenal athletes that come out and bring out fans and create this amazing fan experience. And you know that they're going to stay year after year after year. And that's the biggest part of filling seats, is creating loyalty on both sides of the brand, on creating that kind of triangle leading up from like, how many people can we get invested in the sport because they love the sport? Now, can we get people invested in the athletes because they love the athletes? And then can we take care of the dang athletes? And so that's been really exciting for us as the physical athletes to experience, because I have never felt more professionally taken care of in my life. You know, when we've got security details, we've got the flights, we've got merchandise, and we've got communications. I work on the player executive committee for Athletes Unlimited, so I get to see a lot of the things that go on behind the scenes of them making decisions. And often the first question they ask is, hey, PEC members, our 5 reigning athletes, what do you ladies think about this? How will this impact you guys? And that is kind of unheard of in a lot of times in a time right now where, again, the effect is prioritized without not really looking at the root and the cause of what is going to make it sustainable. I was a sustainability major at college, you know, so like everything for me is so like synergetical, like you bring everything together. It's all this big spider web. So like where you pluck on one side, you're going to feel an effect somewhere else. You just have to be really cognizant of what you're doing and how that spreads. So it's been really exciting, I would say, particularly for me as being an athlete who then exists on the player executive committee as well, to see how much they prioritize us as athletes and as people.
And you win that way because the foundation is laid on intention and good intention of making the athletes not just pawns, you know, in the business. And it's, again, I got to witness James sitting down one-on-one with athletes to build their personal brand and who they were, not just what they were doing on the field, and seeing that be prioritized of, hey, let's work on this. You know, this is your strong suit. You should post more of this. Like that helps them obviously with brand deals and stuff like that. But again, there's been so much support for y'all to express yourselves and be yourselves. And people love that. It's why people are flocking to the sport. You guys are fully supported by the league you're playing for. So again, there's that, you know, we're pulling on the same end of the rope here, and it's going to naturally build the league because y'all are so supported and encouraged to, you know, do this and this and this. And you know what? Do this too. Like you can do all of it. And I think that's and again, I see it through a screen a lot of the time. Social media, y'all are great on social media, truly, but people love it. And to hear from the athletes, I think it was Peyton Gottschall told me that Kim Eng sat down one-on-one with players to get feedback. The commissioner of the league sat down with each individual player to get feedback on what was going on within the league and make the changes. That blew my mind when she told me that, because again, to your point, how often do we see that? You know, we watch other sports go head to head with the Players Association and the league and trying to figure things out. You guys are on the same team, and not that they're not, but hearing the athletes be able to share their piece and give feedback, and then the changes are actually implemented, that's why this sport is going to explode. And we're seeing it in the blueprint that has been laid out in 2025 going into this year. I would bet heavy on this thing taking off even more than it already has. And then
it's one of those things like you talk about the social media, people crave authenticity. Dude. Like everything that you see on like Instagram, on TikTok, on everything right now, you can tell when you're being fed something. When you're being fed a narrative, you can tell when you're being fed something that doesn't track, it doesn't make sense. And so I think that, like, again, Kim Eng is saved in my phone. She like has texted me individually and been like, hey, just checking in. Hey, do you mind? Like, and every single time I feel seen and heard as a person. I think so many times we like turn to social media for that like parasocial relationship that's built on everything because we crave authenticity in all aspects of our lives, and it's hard to find at times. And so like AU for me has been one of the most exciting things because like I do get to be exactly who I want to be. They are not going to tell me, hey, you have to do this for money. Hey, you have to do this. You have to like, here's your NIL deal. So you have to kind of like sell somebody on something, even if whether you believe it or not, like that doesn't really matter to us. It's a business. It's a business. It's a business. I don't feel like a business anymore. I don't feel like someone who's being sold from place to place, which you can sometimes feel, especially like me. I play softball all year round. I just go from contract to contract to contract. And sometimes you stop feeling like a person and you start feeling like a tool, an instrument, something that gets something done. And so like
Right.
every single year I get so excited to come back to AU because I don't feel like that ever. You know, I feel seen, I feel heard, I feel appreciated. And a lot of that is the atmosphere that we as the athletes create by being very empathy heavy, by creating that ourselves. But it does trickle down from the top. And so like that has been really, really amazing to see.
Tell me about Salt Lake City. They announced the teams last week. Everybody's excited. I got a lot of feedback of like, why isn't there a team here? What? Guys, you got to start small. You got to build somewhere first before you can expand. Let me just remind everybody of that. But Salt Lake City, are you excited? What do you feel about that? The Talons over there?
I'm so excited. I thought that was one of our favorite venues that we went to, not only because I'm a huge fan of Swig and they make a great dirty soda out there, but it felt really cool for someone like, again, I told you I'm from Florida. Like the average elevation of Florida is like 0, maybe +1 if you're on a golf course,
Right.
you know, and you're me, and you just find every bunker. But it's one of those things where like you stand on that field and you can see like the mountains behind the field. It's a pitcher's field. She's got a nice far fence. And it's just a beautiful venue, especially with Hannah Flippin, like having the connection that she had where she played college there. Anissa Ortez obviously now graduated as well. But being able to come home to somewhere feels really cool. Like you don't get that opportunity very often. So I think all of us,
Mm-hmm.
because we love Hannah and we love the things that she does for this team, we were like, oh my God, we're so excited for Utah. We're so excited for Utah. Last year, before we'd even been to the location, we were able to like, we went to dinner with the head coach. She took us in her house. She's like showing us around. We're sitting on her patio, enjoying the view. Like we felt welcomed and invited in that space well before they named that location. So like I'm super excited. I've never really been to that side of the US very much. It's one of those kind of like you've really got to need to get over there if you want to get over there. And so like being based there now feels super exciting because it feels like a place that there may not be a lot of like professional sports already there. So you get to kind of
Right.
again be one of the first ones to tack into a market that has been maybe historically kind of overlooked.
Yes. And I love that. I'll be honest, whenever the cities came out, I was kind of knew some of them were going to happen, but Utah, I was like, interesting. And I remember asking James, I was like, why Utah? He was like, well, we had a good showing when we played there, and I don't really know what else, but it's like a fresh slate for you guys to build a professional sports team that Salt Lake can get behind. And again, the view from that field is stunning. Look it up. If you're watching this, just look it up, because if I got to play softball there as my home field, I think I'd be pretty content. It's gorgeous.
And we packed
I'm
the
excited.
berm, I want to say, for like our 4 games
Yes.
against the Blaze, we packed the berm. It was absolutely amazing. The amount of fans and experiences that we were able to create there was just so cool. And then I think it's really nice because when you like look on the map, it's very easy sometimes to like cluster. You know, you'll get a bunch on the East Coast and maybe like one on the
Yep.
West Coast, whatever. We have really kind of like tried to get as much as we can so that there's no fans that are really like ignored. You know, everyone wants
Yes.
California, everybody wants, you know, like, and that's difficult because it's very expensive, but also like you've got a Portland, Oregon, you've got a Utah, like
Right.
we've kind of triangulated that. And then that opens those venues then for the expansion of the league. So it'll be really
Yep.
cool if like you're able to get people that are like traveling, maybe they don't have to travel 5, 6 hours on a plane. They can make a drive, they can make a
Yep.
shorter flight to catch their favorite teams at these locations and maybe fall in love with a new place that they've never really been to. It's nice to have a
Yep.
home field, but I'd never been to Utah. And I think I was walking with Tori Vidalis, actually. We were going and walking to get coffee, and we were just like, this is beautiful. I would never know how beautiful this region is if I'd never been, if softball hadn't
Right.
opened the door for me to come to this location. So I think that's always really exciting for people to like get a chance to go and find somewhere new. And then obviously like if your hometown is Santa Barbara, Florida or Santa Barbara, California or Florida, like make the argument for your team to be there. Like show
Yeah.
up at these games and then it'll be easy for us to be like, yeah, you know what? There was an insane demand for this
That's
region.
it.
We're going to fill that region. Like we need people to be passionate about things so that we know where we want to expand.
Proven concept. I'm so excited to see how this season unfolds. Truly, just having home fields and like now you're able to connect with fans, because not that y'all couldn't before, but it's a little bit easier to make those personable connections when you have a home team, when you have a favorite player on this team, or you're in love with the brand. And I think those fan bases are going to grow more than a lot of people expect, truly. I want to pivot because I have this burning question about marine biology. And the whole time you've been talking, I know, I'm waiting.
Love a pivot.
Because the whole time I hear the scientific vocabulary. It's been throughout the whole episode, the whole time we've been talking. I'm like, this girl is smart. It makes sense, right? Okay. I need the background on marine biology and your love for the ocean.
Oh gosh. I mean, I don't even know where to start. I wish I could show you around my, this is my little apartment I have in New York right now. And everyone and their mother comes in my house and we're like, you've bought more books. You don't need more books. I have an entire like marine science, like Cousteau, like collection down there. But again, I told you my parents, we moved when I was 3 months old to Georgia. And then I think when we were about 7 or 8 years old, we moved down to Port Charlotte, Florida. And we lived maybe 5-10 minutes away from the beach. And every single time that we would go to the beach, I was like an old man. Like I'd have my hands behind my back and I'd be bent at the waist, like going like seashelling. I was looking for everything. Like I would pick it up and be like, what's this? My mom's like, I don't know. And I'm like, okay. And I'd put it in my pocket and I'd get home and I'd like look it up. I'd be home with like, again, the Webkins computer that my dad like let my sister and I use for like an hour. And I'd be like white shell with orange bands. And I'd be like looking and doing the research, trying to find where all this stuff came from. Because it was the region that we lived in Port Charlotte was so abundant. We would dock our boat up and there was like a sand dollar island. And so we would just like bring all these sand dollars up and I'd be like holding them in my hands and you could like feel them moving. And so like I really, really fell in love with the ocean because my parents realized like how much I really enjoyed doing it. And they would just like make the time to take us out on the water. We like, my sister wanted to, kneeboard and wakeboard and everything. And they would just leave me. They'd like leave me on a beach, like somewhere across the water. And they'd be like,
she'll be fine.
Oh, that one's ours. Cause it's the 12-year-old that's like in the full bodysuit with her hands behind her back in the tide pools, picking things up.
Oh my God.
So since I was like very little, I like fell in love with the water and the ocean. And then Port Charlotte is like, it was a pretty small retirement community. And then we got hit by a hurricane. I think it was Charlie. And so we like battered down in the house. And then the week following that, my mom was like, hey, like we're going to go back out to the beach. Like hurricane's gone, like all the flooding's gone, but like we want to take you back out to the beach. Like schools are still closed. So we've got to find something to do with you. And when I got to the beach, there was so much debris and stuff that had like washed into the, like onto the beach. And I got like really sad about it. Cause I was like, Mom, like, what are the animals going to do? Like, I don't want like the pelicans to eat things. I don't want the birds to eat things. And she's like, well, like there's people that come and like clean the beach. Like a lot of marine biologists probably will come and like make sure that the water's clean and like get all the animals to safety and everything. And like from that moment on, I was like, okay, that's what I want to do. And so like since that moment, I was like, I think I want to do that. Like I want to keep them safe. I want to keep the beaches clean.
Goodness.
Like it was really cute now thinking back on it because I like was scared to death during Hurricane Charlie. Like we were battered up in like I think I was in a bathtub somewhere. But it was like coming out after that and like seeing, I mean, people's homes got washed away, like entire communities got swept back out into the water. And I went back out there and was like, my first question was like, how do we clean this up? How do we fix it? And my mom was like, oh yeah, there's some marine biologists down the beach. Like you can go bug them or something, go ask a question. And so like I went to the library and I got like 12 books about dolphins. I would like, there's a 25 book at my library. Shout out Port Charlotte Library. My library card was used and abused. I would check out 25 books at a time and would like walk home with all my books or like get in the car. And I was just a voracious reader. I just like could not stop reading about it. So like actually my whole college career, it's kind of funny. It's like a little like drag path that you can kind of trace. I was only looking at schools that offered marine biology degrees. So like USF was one of the first schools on my list that I like looked at and I reached out and like Ken Erickson managed to see me and he was like, you'd be our first student athlete with a marine biology degree. Are you okay with that? And I was like, absolutely. And so that was I did my undergrad in integrative biology. I had to like pick up some minors and stuff. And then with COVID, I ended up having to start a master's program in global sustainability. But it was one of those very full circle moments where Kenny was like, do you want to like check out any other schools? Like, da da whatever. And I was like, I don't know. Like, this is my dream school. Like, you guys have my dream major. Like, you offer me the ability to like play here and pitch here and hit here and be like a utility player. Like, I couldn't think of anywhere else that I'd like to be. So it was very, very like cool to have that opportunity. And like my
Yeah.
dad and I like scuba dived together, like leading up to it. We like that was like my favorite birthday gift was my like scuba diving certification.
Oh
So
my
it's been very
goodness.
nice to like, yes, I'm playing softball and like I'm following my dream on that side of things, but I've never really stopped being in love with like the marine biology side of things and the animal conservation and the global sustainability. Everywhere that I go, I like drag all my friends to the museums. I drag them to like Moat just opened a place in Sarasota, so like obviously I took everyone and their mother to Moat.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been pretty cool to like still be able to like have my passions and know that softball's not a forever thing. So I'm still
Mm-hmm.
very, very in love with something once my softball career has finished.
Oh, you just lit up. Like I saw it through the screen and just everything you just said, just hearing the origin story of where that love came from, of you being so young. Talk to me a little bit about balancing that because you're passionate about softball, you're passionate about the ocean and marine biology. That degree, I can't imagine, was very easy to get, and you still managed to be a historic pitcher at USF. How did that balance? How did you handle that?
I think people like to separate them a little bit, but I think
Uh huh.
the reality of it is if you love to learn, you will be good at learning no matter where you are. So I think I was very
Mm,
fortunate, a little unfortunate actually. I tore my meniscus, my knee, in my sophomore year of college. So I ended up actually
mm,
having to be in like a lockout knee brace for like 3 months. And so in that, I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to like lock in and try and get all of my classes done because I think I might have to redshirt. So if I can do a large number of my classes here, knowing that I'm not going to be like at lifts, at practices and everything, I think I'm going to just load up. So I like loaded up on all my physics, my microbiologies, my regular biologies, my orgos, my chems, all of the labs. And I was just crutching. I was crutching from place to place like a mad woman.
holy
Um,
cow.
and then because when I'd gotten the surgery, they were like, you're probably gonna have to redshirt. Like, there's no way you'll come back from it. I was
Right.
like, bet I'm just gonna like load up on my academics. And then I had like a miraculous recovery. I was able to get like an 8 month recovery down to like 5 and was able to be
What?
cleared to play my sophomore year, which actually was the first year that I was an All-American. So it was like
That's
I
wild.
loaded up my coursework, and my pitching coach was like, "How bad do you want it?" Jessica Moore, like hand on my heart, one of the main reasons that I am the pitcher and the person that I am today is Jessica Moore. She was like a pitcher who from Oregon who worked her way onto Team USA and helped carry the Team USA battery and the staff during the like kind of the dark ages of softball when we weren't sure whether like it was going to be in the Olympics or not. And so she
Mm-hmm.
like always every single day she showed up for something not knowing if it was going to be like in a sense worth it. Like when they
Yep.
announced that softball was going to be back in the Olympics, you had a lot of people come back out of the woodworks and be like, "I'm ready to be back with Team USA. I can't wait. I can't wait to chase the Olympic dream." She was like, "But I was with the program. I stayed with the program even when no one knew that the Olympic dream was still happening." She was someone who like taught me that if you want it bad enough, you will do it. Like no matter what because you value the process of getting better. You value greatness as greatness, not just what greatness can give you in the accolades and the medals. So she was one who like she pushed me so hard in my rehab. She's like, "How bad do you want it? Do you want it bad enough to wake up and go to your 8 a.m. lab and go to classes until 2 p.m. and then show up and sit in my bullpen, not even throw a single pitch because you're sat on a bucket in a knee brace and learn and get better and then go and do your afternoon classes as well." And I like that really changed something in me because I never had anybody believe that I could do something like that. They always were like, well, eventually you're going to have to pick. You know, you're going to have to pick, right? And like that was such a defeatist mentality that you just internalize. And she was like, well, no, if you want it bad enough, you can do it. I know you can do it. And so that was actually the first year I was an All American and the first year that I took like 18 credits each semester. So it was unreal. And once I'd done that, everything else was, everything else is barbecue chicken. It's easy.
Yep.
Like if you can get through taking organic chemistry lab, physics, like physics lab, bio lab all in one semester, what else are you worried about? Throwing a
Right.
changeup? throwing a rise ball through the zone, like it's not hard. So I think that was actually really cool because then once you prioritize that, it becomes a pattern. It becomes an expectation for you. So once I had that my sophomore year, like every year following that, I was like, I can take the hard classes. I can go to work in the bullpen and in the classroom. All that it demands is that I choose to learn every single day. The hardest part about classes is falling behind. Everyone knows that. If you show up every single day, if you go to every single lecture, you're not behind.
Right.
You're actually probably ahead of everybody else. But it's easy to be like, oh, maybe not today. Oh, it's kind of hard today. It's very easy. And that happens with softball. That happens in every aspect of sport. It's kind of hard to show up today. I don't think I'm going to do it. I could throw a bullpen today, but it's 10 degrees outside. I don't think I'm going to do it. No. If you do the hard things, they stop being hard. And then you realize that like the things that felt impossible were just hard. And you can do hard things. My kids
dropping dimes.
My kids hate
everywhere.
Me. It's impossible. Do hard things.
Like,
5 degrees outside. Please don't make me throw.
They know no excuses.
I was like generational.
Can we just have one day? No shot. Yeah, no excuse.
No shot.
I have already kept you for so long, but I want to ask this last one and then we'll wrap it up. What is the importance that you believe of having an identity outside of your sport?
That's a hard one. Not because I think that it's a hard
You can do hard things.
I can do hard things. I think it's really important because softball's not forever, like we said, and everything is foundational. So when we talked about the young athletes and how like your foundation looks different than someone else's foundation, if you build your identity on an intrinsically transient thing, it's building it on sand, right? Like softball is not forever. So if your only identity is I'm a softball player or I'm good at softball, God forbid, the second that stops working for you, you don't know who you are. It's the same thing as like my dentist loves to brag that he like could have gone to the Olympics. I'm like, yeah, but you're my dentist, dude. Like at a certain point, I need to put the tool back in my mouth. Like, who are you? Like you don't get to just ride the high of who you were when you were 15, 20, 22 for your entire life because no one wants to be around that. It's constantly living in the past and that offers you no ability to move forward. There offers you no ability to change, no ability to grow, no ability to decide, oh, I actually didn't love that I did that or I didn't love whatever because suddenly your past is all who you are. So if you've ever made a mistake, if you've ever hurt a friend or something, that's all you are. And that becomes your identity as the past. So like, it's really important for me, especially like as I play softball 11 and a half months out of the year. It would be so easy for me to be like, every single day I'm a softball player. I wake up, I'm a softball player. I go to sleep, I'm a softball player. But I'm not. And that's really important. Like I look around my like apartment here and I see all the things that I'm really passionate about. I see my family. I see like music. I have like a little like journal here that I keep and I write and I read and I draw and like all of these things. I think my only identity is I love to learn. And that is an identity that I can get behind because that allows for growth. That allows for change. And so like, it's very difficult at times when people ask you to like, hey, go ahead and introduce yourself. Like what's important about you? I can talk about the things that are important to other people. I can talk about the accolades. I can talk about being an All-American. I can talk about any of the other cool things that I've done with my life, or I can talk about the things that I've learned and I can talk about the experiences. So that's where I like am really passionate now about my coaching career here at Cornell is because if you learn something and you never teach to anybody else, you kind of learned it in vain. Like that's just for you. And it feels a little selfish. Like it's important that you learned it for you, but it's also really important that you share it because like I wouldn't have like probably had the career that I had if I didn't have a knee surgery. Do I think everybody should have a knee surgery so that they can like become a better pitcher? No. Do not tear your meniscus. That sucks. Right? But
you
if I learned from that and I didn't share it with anybody else, what I went through was essentially for nothing.
Right?
So that's like, I think that that's always really cool. It's like, if you can lean into an identity that allows for growth and allows for change, then yeah, you're going to be all right. But if your identity is so stuck in the past and it's built on something that you know can't last, you're setting yourself up for failure. You're setting yourself up for this like massive existential crash that everybody has. Their midlife crises, their quarter life crises. everyone has a crisis and starts running a marathon. You don't have to do that. You can just choose to learn and get better from your experiences. Because I'm not running a marathon, I'm sorry.
That will not be happening.
There's
That
so
is
much
one of the things.
I'm not running. I'm not running.
No shot.
No
Well, I
shot.
joked with you before this that I gained some brain cells from Meg, and I feel like I just gained 20 more. So as you're talking about, learning things and then teaching it to others, mission accomplished. I just learned a lot from you, and I think a lot of viewers and listeners are going to do the same. You are awesome. You dropped so much knowledge that is impactful beyond the sport of softball, and I cannot thank you enough for sitting down with me this morning, truly.
Thank you, Abby. I really appreciate it. I had the best time.